Let's welcome in the next member of the panel, right down there, Tyler Ivins. Tyler, thanks for being here.
Appreciate it, John.
Appreciate it. All right. We have a poll question today, so let's go ahead and put this thing up. What are your feelings about Arkansas next week? Oh, look at this. People have already been online. The majority of you so far saying a very dangerous game. The second option, close, but a Vols win. The third option, Vols by 2 touchdowns. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to use the little QR code right beneath Hearthside Bank. Our poll is always in reach, just as they are. You get the QR code on your phone, or you can go to sportsource.tv/polls and vote that way. Please vote. I want to see how these things turn out. I'm always interested in what you view, how you view things. All right, let's take a look at the SEC standings. And I am just going to open this thing up. You see, I mean, with the exception of Ole Miss being down there, they're 0-1. It's pretty early in the season to be thinking about them at the bottom of the league. But if you looked at it before the season, the haves are on the have side and the have-nots are on the have-not side, I think. What I want to do is looking at those teams there. I wanted the fans to have an idea of who's where on the standings. I want to ask you folks, each of you, to tell me who makes the playoff from the SEC. All right? And I've got you to write them down and rank them. And you're going to tell me 1 through 4 or 5. If you think 5 SEC teams get in, then show me 5. But let's go ahead and show everybody back here. All right. Tyler, I'll start with you. So we need to get the camera in on Tyler so we can hold that up and show people what your playoffs are from the SEC.
This is actually a cosign by the gentleman who I just took his seat. I made a joke to him off the air. I was like, why don't you fill this out because you and I will probably be spot on. In the exact same order. I have better handwriting, but in the exact order. Texas, Bama, Georgia, and Tennessee. Beginning of the season, even here on this show when we were still doing summer things when you joined us on Monday. Tennessee's a 10-2 program. They'll beat Oklahoma, and we'll talk about Alabama and Georgia, and they'll only go as their offensive line will take them. This is spot on right now. These are your best 4 teams. If there was a 5 spot that I left blank, I will still give Missouri the benefit of the doubt, but you guys already touched on it, the first one.
Schedule. That
schedule, and then Diego Papi almost beat you at home. Yeah, so I say 4 right now, potentially 5, but you even brought it up. Money allocations, I don't know if they get more than 4.
Will, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. I think Bama, Texas, Georgia, and I'm tentatively with Tennessee. Part of it is I think their stuff's just together, and a lot of times you see a team that just has their stuff together win 10 games in the SEC, Missouri last year, Kentucky a few years ago. Tennessee has to get better blocking, and Nico has to be able to throw the football, and Tennessee has to be able to go tempo. You're not going to beat, I don't know, you beat Kentucky if you're going to be a conservative football team. But I do think that there are only going to be 4 that get in. I think Missouri has losses coming somewhere because they're not very good up front. I think that LSU is the other concern that I have is maybe LSU only loses 1 more.
Okay. Ryan, what do you got?
I would agree with a lot of what he just said, but my order's a little bit different. I've got Alabama, and then Texas, and then Georgia, and Tennessee. So same 4 teams. I think Alabama, they had a tough schedule, so this was an important one for them last night. They were a borderline playoff team if they had lost this game. Now that they've won, they're probably in. It's just a matter of can they run the table. But I've got them at number 1, Texas 2. I've got a few more questions about Texas after yesterday. There are cracks there that maybe could be exposed by some teams. We'll see. Georgia, Texas in a few weeks will be really fun. Yeah. And then Georgia's still really good. They're not going anywhere. I was tempted to still have them at 2, but I think they'll probably lose another game, even if it's the SEC championship game.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they've still got Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, teams that, were in the top 10 going into yesterday. Ole Miss won't be, but still, they're going to Oxford, which could be dangerous for them. So the Georgia thing, they can't afford to have those losses start piling up. It's, when you look at 4 teams that were in the top 10 going into yesterday, not a great sign that you lose the first one. But it was on the road. All right. Paige, what do you got?
I think I'm pretty similar with you if I remember what you said. I have Alabama, Texas, Georgia, and then Tennessee. I put a 5th one in, maybe Ole Miss.
Genius.
I think a lot of us are still kind of thinking about Missouri, but they did not look good against Vanderbilt. And if you have to think about what have you done for me lately, I have to do the eye test, and they did not look good against Vanderbilt in double overtime, even though they squeaked out the win. I do think the top 3 might move around quite a bit just because of the schedules that they have, how good they are. Do you move after a bad win, or do you move after a good loss? Just how will that look? But just after seeing what Alabama did specifically in the first half against Georgia, I know they kind of let up in the second half. I had to have them in the first place over Texas as they kind of get their footing with Arch Manning at quarterback. And I think, like you said earlier, just tackling and blocking on the offensive line specifically will be huge for Tennessee moving forward.
Yeah, I just wonder, and I wondered this before the season, I still wonder it. We got 4, 4, 4, 5. Do we think the SEC, I mean, do we think the panel, the playoff group, the committee is just going to look at this and say, if 5 teams get in, 5 teams get in, or do we think there's some politics at play here? Because it's the SEC and the Big Ten who created this thing.
I think it's their politics, and one
I
reason
think
is
there's a chance it's 4 and 4 a whole
I
lot of
agree.
years.
Well, and part of it is Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti went to the committee and said, we want 4 guaranteed spots worth of money. And once you did that, and they said, no, you're only going to get 3. To me, that means if you're guaranteed 3, then maybe you can get 4, but I don't know that they're going to give you 5 if they could put a second ACC or a Big 12 team in.
There it is right there. I think the big thing that we need to factor in is we sat back when we were breaking down each conference going, okay, only one from the Big 12, only one from the ACC. Oh, Clemson's starting to look like Clemson of old again, and Miami gets scared by Virginia Tech. I think all this between the 4s and the 5s all dictate whether or not the ACC or the Big 12, who, by the way, didn't Utah just lose last night after beating Oklahoma State? And what's Kansas State? Look, the ACC and the Big 12, one of those 2 conferences is going to steal a bid, and that's going to be the difference between 4 or 5 SEC teams getting in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. We're back on time. That was perfect. Quick and excellent, the way I like it. When we come back, considering how NC State and Oklahoma's offense has looked outside of the Tennessee game, has Tennessee's defense really been tested? We're going to say this every week. They're going to beat somebody. I'm going to do the Sunday show and say, man, they're tested. The following Sunday, I'm going to come back and say, I don't know if they're tested. We'll come back and discuss Tennessee's defense on the Sports Source.